Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we are tackling two terms that you probably hear all the time, maybe even used interchangeably: neurodiversity and mental health. This can get super confusing, so we're going to break it all down. What they actually mean, how they're different, and honestly, why getting that difference right is so important. Okay, so let's just dive right into the big question on everyone's mind. Are these just two different labels for the exact same thing? And look, the short answer, it's a big no. But the why? Well, that's where things get really interesting. To really unpack that, we've got to start with the basics. So, first up, let's get a handle on what we're actually talking about when we say neurodiversity. So, this idea isn't brand new. It popped up back in the late 90s. And the core concept is actually pretty simple, but it's powerful. It says that the variations in how our brains work are completely normal. Think about biodiversity in nature. An ecosystem is way healthier and more resilient when it has tons of different plants and animals, right? Well, the idea here is that human society is the exact same way with our brains. And that right there is the game changer. It's a huge shift from looking at these differences as, problems or defects that need to be fixed. Instead, it reframes them as just a different, equally valid way of being in the world. So when we say neurodivergent, we're not talking about just one thing. It's really this big umbrella term for people whose brains are wired in a way that's different from what society might call typical. And under that umbrella, you'll find a whole range of ways of experiencing and processing the world. I absolutely love this analogy because it just clicks, right? If your brain is the hardware, your neurotype is its operating system. It's not just some app you can install or delete. It's the fundamental code that's been running things from the very beginning. And this isn't some tiny fraction of the population we're talking about. It's roughly 1 in 5 people. 1 in 5. Just think about that for a second. That means in your workplace, in your friend group, even in your family, you definitely know and care about neurodivergent people. All right, so if neurodivergence is the operating system, the fundamental wiring, where do mental health issues fit into the picture? Well, if neurodivergence is the OS, you can think of your mental health as the current state of your system's performance. It's dynamic. It can change. We all have mental health, and it can be great one day and not so great the next, depending on all sorts of things happening in our lives. And this is such a crucial distinction, you guys. Conditions like anxiety and depression are often states of being, not permanent traits. They can be triggered, they can fluctuate, and they can be treated. There's something a person experiences, not the core of who a person is. Okay, so we've got two different concepts here, right? One is the wiring, the other is the well-being. But here's where it gets really important, because even though they are different, their stories are often deeply intertwined. And this chart just lays it out so clearly. On one side, you've got neurodivergence, the innate way a brain is built. It's for life. On the other side, you have a mental health issue. It describes an emotional state, which can be temporary or episodic, and can sometimes be an illness. And this is the million-dollar question, isn't it? If they're so different, why do we talk about them together so often? Well, the answer has everything to do with the friction that comes from trying to run one kind of operating system in a world that was designed for a completely different one. And the data on this is, well, it's pretty staggering. The numbers show it a really strong connection. We're talking up to half of autistic people and people with ADHD also dealing with things like depression or clinical anxiety. That's not a coincidence. So here's the so what of all of this. The mental health challenges aren't usually caused by the neurodivergence itself. No, they're often a result of the constant stress of trying to exist in a world that isn't built for you. Imagine the sheer exhaustion of having to mask your true self all day, every day, just to fit in. Or dealing with sensory overload in a typical office. That constant friction, that's what can lead to serious mental health struggles. And understanding that connection is everything, because it means we have to completely rethink how we offer support. It's not just about treating symptoms. It's about changing the environment. And that all starts with the words we use and the way we look at the whole situation. This table just nails that shift in perspective. You've got the old way, the medical model, which basically saw autism as a disorder. The goal was to make the person seem more normal. But the neurodiversity view? It completely flips the script. It says, hey, maybe the person isn't the problem.
Maybe the problem is a society that doesn't accommodate difference. So the goal becomes changing the environment to be more inclusive, not changing the person. And this isn't just theory. Listen to this quote from Francesca. It's so powerful. For almost her whole life, doctors were treating her anxiety and depression. But then she got her autism diagnosis, and everything changed. Just having that understanding, that new framework for her life, it allowed her to be kinder to herself. That's the real-world impact we're talking about. Okay, so let's do a quick recap of the big takeaways. Number 1, neurodivergence is your brain's basic operating system. It's innate. 2, mental health issues are about your emotional well-being, and they can change. 3, they are absolutely not the same thing, but, and this is a big but, the stress of navigating society can create mental health challenges for neurodivergent folks. And finally, number 4, the real solution isn't about fixing people, it's about building a more accepting and accommodating world for everyone. So that leaves us with one last thing to chew on. A really big question, actually. What if we did it? What if our society, our schools, our workplaces, was built from the ground up to be truly inclusive for all types of minds? How would that change this whole conversation? What would happen to those statistics we saw earlier?
That's a pretty powerful idea to think about, right? I'd love to hear what you think. What does a more inclusive world look like to you? Drop your thoughts down in the comments. And hey, if this explainer helped clear things up for you, do us a favor and hit that like button, and of course subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you again soon.